Ning opened his eyes as a wiser man than he had been before. He understood what he needed to do now, so he took a deep breath and readied himself. Having never done this before, it was going to be a bumpy ride for sure, but he hoped he could come out victorious in the end. Ning let go of his breath as he was finally ready. Here goes nothing. He placed his palm on the bamboo and the point where he touched it suddenly started glowing. It was impossible to tell what the source of the light was. Neither Ning nor the bamboo seemed to be the cause. The light shined brighter and brighter, and then, it vanished. Not only that, all light vanished. The air vanished, the forest vanished, everything vanished. Ning stood with his hands forward in a world of darkness where there were no sources of any light at all. In fact, when he focused a bit, he realized that his hands itself were illusory as well. This was the world of souls that Ning had come to involuntarily before when he said his final goodbye to Hiesi's soul. "Where am I?" A voice spoke from behind Ning. Ning quickly turned around to see an older teenager look around with a confused look. His eyes were blank as he tried to think of everything that had led him to this place. Then, he remembered and the panic flooded him again, just as it had when he died. "Mom?" he shouted as he looked around. "Sis? Anyone?" He looked everywhere in the darkness until his eyes fell on Ning. "Ah! A ghost!" he shouted. "Go away, ghost. You can't take me. I won't let you." Ning felt bad for the young man. As it would seem, the young man didn't even realize that he had died. "I'm sorry, but you're dead," Ning said. "Why what?" the young man asked. "Look at yourself," Ning said. The young man's eyes went wide as he slowly placed his hands in front of him, and the thing he feared the most right now came true. His hands were transparent as well. He too was a ghost. "Did I die?" he asked. "Yes," Ning said. "And you're not a ghost. Just a soul that I'm talking with. You have successfully reincarnated, but as a bamboo." "As a, what? No, wait. You said I reincarnated? How did I die?" the young man asked. Ning looked up the information on how the young man died and he couldn't help but have his heart skip a beat. "I'm sorry, I can't tell you," Ning said. "It was for the best anyway." "Are you a god?" the young man asked. Ning chuckled a bit. "No, I'm not a god. You are losing energy each second in this world of souls. Please hurry up or you won't have enough to separate the system." "Right, the system," Ning thought and looked at the young man again. The young man looked the same as what the young man viewed himself as. Since he had memories of his past, he remembered himself the same way. Except, there was something weird about his body. At the center of his chest, right where his heart should have been, was a glowing piece of blue ball that had attached itself to the soul. "There's the system," Ning thought. He slowly walked towards the young man. "I can tell you many things afterward, but for now, I need to do something." "Do what?" the young man asked. "I'm sorry, but this is going to hurt. So brace yourself." Before the young man could understand the meaning behind those words, Ning's hand plunged into his chest and he grabbed the system with his bare hands. Ning had no soul. If anything, the current vision of himself was a creation manifested through the energy he had. When he grabbed the system, it started to burn his current manifestation. Each pain, each instance of the burn was his losing energy. Each moment was the system fighting back against his own energy, making it impossible for him to take away the system. Ning grabbed it even harder and pulled. The system wasn't attached to the soul as strongly as other systems would, so he had a chance at it. The young man cried out in pain, but Ning kept on going. Even though he himself felt like he was going to faint from this pin, he forced himself to keep on going. Harder and harder, with each second he pulled, the system was slowly being ripped away from the young man's soul. Ning could feel the massive drain of energy as he used all he could to pull the system out. In doing so, he was also pulling away bits and pieces of the young man's soul. Flaky bits appeared in multiple parts of his soul, representing that his soul was starting to crumble, but it didn't. It was just damaged, and there were infinite souls like these in the universe. "Ah!" Ning cried out as he finally pulled out the glowing blue ball from the young man's chest, and with it some bit of soul that was still attached to it. System. Link now. System is establishing a link with system, energy devouring system. Link established energy cap has been temporarily removed. Absorbing the energy in the system, the blue ball of energy slowly disintegrated from his hand as the system fully absorbed all the energy in it. When it was finally done, Ning ended up with 20% more energy than when he started. That was a good trade, he couldn't help but say while taking deep breaths as if he was tired. The system closed off the link and the energy cap was re-established. As Ning was thinking of closing this world of souls, the young man woke up. Where? What? He couldn't understand. Hey, are you okay? Ning asked him. He had to check on his soul. The young man turned towards Ning. Ah, a ghost, he shouted. Ning was a little taken aback. Do you not remember me? He asked. Who are you? Why should I remember you? The young man asked. Ning was a little surprised. Did I hurt his soul too badly? Did he lose memories? He asked the system. He does have a lapse in memory due to the damage to his soul, but fortunately, once he reaches a higher level of cultivation base, his soul should heal, albeit at a slower pace. Even if you were to leave him alone, his soul will heal, and eventually, he will remember everything. I see, that's great then, Ning thought. He looked back towards the young man's soul and spoke. You were ill just before, and I helped heal your soul. Something must have happened for you to temporarily lose your memory, but you will remember it eventually. My soul? The young man asked as he looked at his own hands again. Arg, I'm a ghost. Sigh, you're not a ghost, you're a soul. You've been reincarnated, Ning said. Having to explain it all over again felt annoying, but what else could he do? You can leave the world of souls now. Do I have any other way to talk with him after I leave? Ning asked. No, he won't be able to hear until he breaks through to the nascent soul realm where his cultivation base forms a nascent soul in his body. Then I will stay here for a bit. I have enough energy to spare, Ning said. Besides, I am responsible for his situation in some ways anyway. He continued explaining to the young man what was happening right now. The young man couldn't believe that he had reincarnated into an entirely different planet than his last one, much less turn into a bamboo. How could he believe it even? After all, he didn't even remember dying. Do you know about my mother and sister? You seem to know a lot, the young boy said. I'm sorry, I do not know about them, Ning said, lying to the young man so he lived under the illusion that his family was okay. It was better to let him live in a blissful lie than to suffer a bitter truth. So what is this world I am in? He asked. It's called Planet Dichu, Ning said. Let me tell you a little about this world. Ning went on to explain about Dichu, more importantly going into teaching him about cultivation itself. There were many different things he needed to learn about the world, and how to navigate it as bamboo. He would be fine as long as he reached the spirit transformation realm, but that would take a long time since plants didn't have any cultivation method they could follow. However, Ning wasn't worried about that. Given the type of bamboo he was, reaching higher realms would be the least of his worries eventually. He taught the young soul a fair bit before finally preparing to leave. You likely won't be conscious for a long while, but try to remember what I taught you, Ning said. That should help you a bit. Thank you, brother, the young soul said. Ning nodded. Let me know if you want to know anything else. I might not be here when you need it, he said. The young man thought for a bit. I don't have any new parents in this world, do I? The young man asked. No, you came from seed and nothing else. You have no family here, Ning said. If anything, the only family you will have for now is the little beast you have on top that is eating your leaves, Ning said. Okay then, please give me a suggestion. What should I call myself? The young man asked. Ning thought, using his brilliant mind, and came up with a brilliant name that would shine throughout the world as one of the most unique names of all time. How about Zhu Zi? It fits the Chinese theme of this world and perfectly suits you, Ning said. Zhu Zi, rolls off the tongue quite nicely. Sure. My name is Zhu Zi from now on, Zhu Zi said. Great, have fun then Zhu Zi. You will go back to sleep, but you should wake up before you know it, Ning said. Thank you, Zhu Zi said with a slight pause. What was your name, Ag? The world of souls faded away and Zhu Zi went back to the bamboo that Ning's hand was still touching. The light returned and Ning finally opened his eyes. Ha! He breathed in loudly as he hadn't done so in a while. He took a few more deep breaths and looked around. Did he say something in the end? Ning thought but didn't give it much thought. So, I can't do anything here, can I? Since the bamboo had a soul, there was no chance of him being able to take it without killing the young man he had just met. You can just take one of the offshoots. As long as you don't cut the main stalk in half, he won't feel any pain. Oh. Ning thought in surprise. Is that right? There were two different offshoots coming from the main stalk of the bamboo. So Ning grabbed onto one of it and broke it from where it grew. That's fine, right? He asked the system. Yes, he can grow many such offshoots in the future, albeit they will take an incredibly long time. I see, Ning thought. I should leave this other one here then. Ning looked at the bamboo one last time and smiled, knowing that he had helped someone that was in need and didn't just leave him because he feared risking his energy. And to his surprise, it paid off quite nicely, giving him some 40 septillion more energy. Let's leave, Ning thought, and had only turned around when he heard Blue's voice directly into his mind from far away. Master, please come out here fast, you need to help me. Ning rushed out of the bamboo forest only to find the dragon in his original size, on the ground, cowering in fear. Blue, what's wrong? He asked, quickly grabbing onto him. However, it didn't take him long before Ning realized just what was happening. A spiritual pressure fell onto Ning, one that was far stronger than anything he had felt on this planet. Ning couldn't help but smile when he sensed that. He pushed back the pressure, relieving it from not just himself, but also Blue, who was on the ground. I would appreciate it if you don't go scaring my little dragon like that. He is not strong enough to handle such strength yet, Ning said. The person on the other side was surprised. Who are you? He asked. Why are you trespassing in this forbidden land? I'm not trespassing since you don't own the entire transcendent ruins. Also, I am Ning Ruigong, from China on planet Earth. Ning introduced himself. And I take it you are Yenshu Qingwen? The man on the other side was surprised. Did you say China? He asked, receding his previous pressure. Yes, China. I hear you are from China too, Ning said. May I ask how long ago that was? It was, a few 100,000 years at least, the man on the other side said. Whoa, that must be a good few 100 years ago back on Earth then. Maybe even more. I suppose you are a senior of mine in a way. So, as respect, I won't hurt you for hurting my beast, Ning told him. He lowered to let Blue climb back onto him. Do you have anything you want to talk about? Ning asked. Maybe you want to learn about China? The other man stayed silent. No, I care not for that land anymore. It's a distant world of my memories now. However, I wish to learn how you came here. Did you die and revive like me? He asked. Not me, Ning said. But the fellow in there is. I just came here on a whim, and I will be leaving soon. Anything else you want to know? Yes, the man said. How are you so strong? I don't think I've sensed any cultivator that was as strong as you. Not even the fiend I killed was stronger than you. That is not something I can easily explain, not that I want to either, Ning said. Anyway, I'm planning on leaving now. Let me know if you want to return to Earth by any chance. I can take you there. The man sighed on the other side. No, I have nothing there to go back to, he said. You're not wrong, Ning said. Anyway, goodbye. Ning teleported away from the place, traveling all the way to the northern pole of the planet where barely any cultivators lived due to the extremely frigid coldness of this place. Ning got ready to open a portal and asked Blue, where do you want to go? He asked. Where? Where can we go exactly, Master? Blue asked. Aren't we going back to that place that you have created? That was my idea, Ning said. But since there are only so few of you remaining, I thought of going through all the different planets at once instead of going there one by one. Oh, so you want to go to where Night is next? Blue asked. Yeah, Night or Anya, Ning said. Since those two are the only ones remaining to go through in this galaxy. Who is closer? Blue asked. Closer, let's see. Ning closed his eyes and suddenly a star chart appeared in front of him, which Blue could see too. Whoa! What is this, Master? He asked. A miniature imagination of our universe, he said. Well, this is just a galaxy really. I don't understand what that means, Blue said. Look, here, Ning pointed to one of the glittering lights in front of them. We are right here. In the light? He asked. No, not the light, Ning said and pulled the star into focus. Blue got scared for a moment as stars and nebulas flew past him in this illusory world. The star he had pointed to got bigger and bigger until it looked nothing more than a ball of liquid fire. What's that? He couldn't help but ask. That's the sun of this planet, Ning said. He pointed to a small ball of dirt on the side. That is Dikia, the planet we are on right now. What? He couldn't help but shout in surprise. That's where we are. Just how big is our world? It's impossible to imagine with our feeble minds, Ning said. Until you truly see it for yourself, you will never truly understand just how vast everything is. Blue continued looking at the spinning planet with wide eyes. And where are the others? Night and Anya, he asked. Ning thought and quickly zoomed out a little until the star itself was back to being a speck of light. Here, he pointed to another speck of light in the far corner of the galaxy. That's where Anya is, and here is where Night is. Anya seems closer than Night. Will it be faster to go to Anya first? He asked. No, it is the same, Ning said, but it might cost me a little less. Then we should go there, Master, Blue said. Ning shrugged. If you say so. Not that the order really matters, he said and closed the star chart. The freezing cold returned back with a fury, which Ning pushed aside so Blue didn't get frozen. After that, he put his hands forward and carved an opening in space, which split open to reveal a land with the sea nearby. Are you ready? Ning asked Blue. Blue furiously nodded. Yes, Master, he said. Ning smiled and walked through. He and Blue had now arrived in a lone island in the middle of nowhere, on a planet that was called Olo. We need to wait a few more minutes for the door to close, Ning said. Then we can go get Anya. Ning waited until the portal closed and finally looked around at the oceanic world he was on. This is a world full of water with barely any land on it, he said softly, almost speaking to himself. Only water? Blue asked almost excitedly. That's the best kind of world for me, Master. He flew off of Ning's shoulders and jumped into the ocean, turning himself into a large serpentine dragon that swam through the ocean. Ning smiled and slowly flew up to Blue before landing on his back. If you love this so much, then become my ride here. Of course, that would be my pleasure, Master, Blue said, and started slowly moving forward on the surface of the water. Where are we going exactly, Master? In that direction, Ning pointed. Okay. Blue took off the moment he got the command. Ning was surprised at how fast Blue was. He understood that being in water gave him some advantages, but this was far faster than what someone should have been capable of given his cultivation base. Not bad. This is what I wanted to see since you were a true dragon now, Ning said. Haha, Master. I never knew I was this fast at all, he said. I was stuck in that desert for way too long. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask. Why exactly did you not leave that place? You could have gone west and reached an ocean in a day or two's time, Ning said. Oh, was the ocean that close? He asked. I ended up in the desert and since then I've been staying there so I could be stronger before I left. Didn't help that I had only just evolved thanks to my breakthrough to immortality. I see, Ning said. That's understandable. Also, there is a very strong fish coming to attack us from the front. Be careful. Oh. Blue quickly spread out his own divine sense and searched for the fish. As Ning had said, a 12-finned, long fish with hundreds of sharp teeth was swimming straight toward them at quite a fast speed. Oh, it's just a low immortal fish, Blue said. It's nothing strong. The fish arrived a moment later, and before it could do anything, Blue opened his mouth and sent a blast of water at it. The water tore through the fish's body, leaving nothing but chunks of flesh. Ning used his telekinesis to pull something slightly blue from the fish's body which turned out to be a beast core. See, Master? I can handle low immortals quite easily, Blue said. I know exactly how far you can handle now that I've seen you fight those three, Ning said as he pocketed the beast's core. That's why I said the fish that is coming is strong. It took Blue a few instances to understand what Ning was saying, but when he did, his face darkened. Suddenly, a wave of power hit him, forcing him to slow down by just its mere presence. Immortal Saint Realm. I did hear that the aquatic beasts were what cultivated the most in this world, but I did not expect to see something like that so soon, Ning said. He looked at Blue who was starting to slow down and chuckled. I thought you were a true dragon that didn't cower in front of anything, he said. I'm not, Master, Blue said, but even I know not to fight something like that myself. I should leave it to you. That's correct, Ning said and flicked his finger. A single spear chi flew from his fingers and flew straight into the distance. Blue did not see anything at first, but a moment later a huge explosion appeared sending water flying hundreds of meters into the air. The body part of the fish flew into the air too, and Ning pointed towards one of them. Go towards that portion, he said. Yes, Master, Blue said and swam so fast that he arrived there before the piece fell into the water. Ning pulled the beast core out from that one as well and placed it inside his storage. Master, why are you keeping the beast cores? Do you plan on feeding it to me later? Blue asked expectantly. Eating beast cores was one of the ways for beasts to continue cultivating, so he was quite hopeful. No, I might, if I find no other use, Ning said. Thank you, Master, Blue said happily, and the two of them continued on their journey. They continued going through the ocean for hours, even fighting quite a few beasts, but they had still not reached their destination at all. Another fish flew into the sky, attacking them. Blue was ready to attack back, but Ning stopped him. We are merely passing through. Please don't be worried, Ning said to the fish, who thought for a moment and let them pass through. Blue was worried for a few moments, but after the fish was gone, he continued going to his destination, not giving much thought to what had happened before. It's so weird, Master, Blue said. There really is no land at all here. I said before, didn't I? There is barely any land here. All there are is a few islands here and there. That's all, Ning said. That's so weird. If all it is water, then where do the people live? Blue asked. You haven't noticed yet, have you? Ning asked, almost mysteriously. Notice what? Blue asked with a weird look on his face. Was he supposed to notice anything? We've already gone past quite a few human civilizations, Ning said. What? Blue couldn't believe it at all. No way. Do they live in the sky, hidden from my eyes? No, they live in the ocean, preferably hidden from everyone's eyes, Ning said. Huh? How do they live there? In a bubble? Blue asked. No, they don't need something like that, Ning said. They can breathe even without it. Blue couldn't understand that at all. How can they breathe? Through some artifacts? He asked. No, Ning said. They can breathe normally because all humans in this world have the ability to transform into a fish. Huh? Humans can transform into fishes in this world? Blue asked, almost unbelieving of what was being said. That's right, Ning said. Or more exactly, aquatic beasts. Did you think I let a couple of the fishes go away without fighting them just because I was being generous? Oh, those were humans? Blue asked. Yes, Ning said. Although I did leave out a couple of intelligent fishes too. I only killed the ones that weren't intelligent enough and were acting merely on instinct. I see, Blue said. But how is it possible? How can humans turn into fishes? How can beasts turn into humans? Ning asked Blue. Well, that's because we reach the spirit transformation realm, which is why we get to transform, Blue said. Spirit transform realm merely merges your soul and body, allowing them to be malleable enough to forge into whatever is deemed necessary to survive in that world. You could turn into a human because the land of Kumiya deemed it to be the best survival case for everyone. These people turn into aquatic beasts because this world deems it to be the best case for survival for everyone, Ning said. I see, Blue said. So I will be able to turn to a fish too in this world? What are you saying? Ning asked. You're already an aquatic beast. What more would you need to survive in this world? Oh, right. I thought everyone would turn into fishes, Blue said. Fish, squid, octopus, whatever you need to be to survive in this world, Ning said. So, we are going to see Anya who? Blue inquired. She's turned into a beast more certainly and is living in the depths of the ocean, Ning said. Due to how small most lands are and how devoid of spirit veins they are, no one really wants to live on the surface. I see, Blue said. Wait, how do human children even survive here? They would die, won't they? Ning couldn't help but chuckle at the question. It's a do-or-die world, buddy. The human women can stay pregnant for a much longer amount of time, but in that time, the child must reach a minimum of spirit transformation realm for it to survive. Whoa. Blue was not expecting that answer at all. Can they even do it? How does a child reach that high of a cultivation base without being able to cultivate? It's just a fetus after all. Don't worry, this world has thought of that as well, Ning said. Otherwise humanity would have gone extinct eons ago. I'm really curious about it now, Blue said. I believe you will see it very soon now, Ning said. You can start diving actually. Start heading towards the depths of the ocean and we will reach there. Understood. Blue took a dive, delving deep into the cold water where vision slowly disappeared. Due to how deep the ocean was, at some point, there was no longer any light visible around them. Fortunately, as cultivators, they didn't need much light to see anything. Not only did they have their divine sense, but they also could see incredibly well with almost no light at all. Blue could see perfectly and he kept going downward, per Ning's instruction. As they went deeper and deeper, almost 10 kilometers into the seafloor, the light in the sky was anything but completely gone. At this point, even Blue started to hesitate to trust his eyes and was using his senses. However, just a little bit forward, he saw light coming from not far away from him. "Master, there's something there," he said proudly. "Yes, that's where we are going," Ning replied, not with his voice, but by simply creating sound through his body. Suddenly, something entered Blue's senses. A bunch of beasts came rushing at them at incredible speed, ready to attack them. The group consisted of some fish, octopus, seahorse, jellyfish, and even a giant starfish. They all prepared for battle, but when they saw Ning on top of Blue, they paused. "Stop!" The starfish at the front shouted at them and Blue slowed down. He realized that the fish in front of him was nearly an immortal king. "Greetings, brother," Blue spoke up. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" the starfish asked. He spoke to Blue, but his eyes were on Ning, who was somehow this deep in the ocean without seemingly holding his breath at all. "We are here to meet a woman that goes by the name of Anya," Blue said. The starfish lowered its guard slightly. "You know Anya?" the starfish asked. "Yes, we do," Blue said. "I am a longtime friend of hers and this person on top of me is her master." The starfish found it hard to believe, but then how else would they know Anya lived in this place? "May we enter?" Ning finally spoke. "Sure, but please turn to your fish form," the starfish asked. "I'm sorry, but I have no fish form. I only just recently arrived in this world after all," Ning said. The starfish frowned. "All right then, I hope you can go on for long without any air down here," he said. "Don't worry about that," Blue spoke. "Something like being out of breath won't kill my master." "I see," Starfish said. He turned to his group and told them to be on guard while the two of them were taken in. Until they confirmed with Anya, however, they were practically prisoners being shown around the town. Ning got off of Blue and finally swam on his own, going towards a certain building where he had already found his little disciple. When they arrived, one of the people guarding them went inside and called Anya. A beautiful seahorse came rushing outside to see if it was true. The moment she saw Ning, she couldn't help but shout out loud, "Master, Blue! You are really here." Ning saw her and smiled. "You are not the same Anya I remember." "Wait, let me change." The seahorse Anya quickly transformed into her human form before jumping onto Ning in a tight hug. "I can't believe you are really back, Master. I'm so happy right now." Anya felt like a giddy little child when she saw Ning again. She left Ning and hugged Blue too, who was way too large for her to put her arms around. The other people in the group looked around with a weird expression on their fish faces. They had always seen Anya as this stoic female warrior who was as good at healing as she was in battle. They would have never believed that there was such a little child hidden deep inside. That made them wonder if the Anya they saw for so long was even her true self at all. "How are you doing, little girl? I see that you landed yourself on a rather terrible planet," Ning said. "It's all right," Anya said with a dejected face. "Once you get the hang of it, you can survive. Although there is nothing else to do than just survive. However, I'm more worried about my children. I just keep thinking that they might be in a worse place than I am," she said. "No worries, they are all doing fine," Ning said. "I've been to all of them and have brought them back to a single place on another planet where they can live just like they did in Kumiya," Ning said. Anya's eyes went wide. "Really, Master?" she asked. "My daughters and grandchildren are all okay?" "Yes, they are all fine," Ning said. "You have nothing to worry about." "Thank God," Anya said as she started wiping the tears off her face. "I can finally be free of this anxiety." "Actually, you can be free of everything," Ning said. "I came here to take you off this planet." "Oh, you can do that?" Anya asked with a surprised face. With just her divine sense she asked, "Is your system that developed now?" "Yes, it's good and we can leave whenever you are ready," Ning said and looked around. "Where's your husband? He should be around, right?" "Rowan is out to hunt some beasts," Anya said with a bit of hesitation to her face. "Do I have to leave right now?" Ning saw the hesitation on her face and frowned. "We don't have to leave right now. Do you have something you need to do?" he asked. "Actually, yes," she said. Come with me." Anya turned back to her seahorse form as she was starting to suffocate. Now that she could finally breathe again, she took Ning somewhere. The other humans were worried and tried to stop her or ask her where she was going. "I'm taking my master to the room full of women," she said. "What? You can't do that. Men aren't allowed in there," the others said. "Well, he's no ordinary man. I learned everything from him, so he will be more helpful than anything I could ever do," Anya said. The others looked at Ning with a disbelieving faces. There was no way that was true. Still, They had no choice but to accept Anya's words as she was the only healer they had in this world. Ning was curious and walked with her before going toward a massive piece of rock that was cut open to make a living space. Glowing gems were laid all around to help them be able to see, and they were living close to a volcanic exhaust vent that sent heated water through a current toward them. Ning entered the building and saw the rock being cut up in various segments on the inside as well to make up rooms. Not all rooms were occupied, but the ones that were full of women in them. And every single one of those women was pregnant. I'm in charge of them and their help, Master, Anya said. I need to stay here and administer some healing pastes to them if the need arises. I see, Ning said as he looked around. How long have they been pregnant? Some have been pregnant for less than a year. A few for over a year, and there are 2 that are over 2 years of pregnancy. In this world, the women get pregnant for a long time and the babies come out with a full cultivation base, Anya said. I know, Ning said. Here, I got these on the way here. They need it, right? Ning took out a bunch of beast cores that he had obtained from the sea beasts on the way here. Anya's eyes went slightly wide when she saw them. You really do know everything. I shouldn't have doubted you at all, she said as she took the beast cores and looked at them. She noticed something. Master, these cores, are they from a strong beast? Huh? Oh yeah, Blue killed most of them, but I had to help once or twice. Most of them are from high immortal or even true immortal beasts. But there are 2 from immortal saints too, Ning said. Although I never did see an immortal king one. I know they are rare in this world as that's the highest possible realm, but it's still sad or I could have brought them to you. No master, this is more than enough, Anya said quickly. In fact, this might be actually too much. I don't know how these women can eat something so strong. Well, I wasn't really thinking about them when I killed the beasts, so you can use it however you want, Ning said. The pregnant women, since they were in beast forms, could eat beast cores and give the chi in those cores to their children to passively cultivate while they were inside. That was how it was even possible for them to come out as a spirit transformation cultivator right from the womb. If they didn't gain the beast cores, then the only thing they could do was give birth to normal children, who would, unfortunately, die by being crushed by the sheer weight of the ocean. Such was life in this world. I will go feed some of these to the women so they can get stronger, Anya said. Is there anything else you can help them with? Ning looked at them. Go ahead and do what you want to. I will need to consult the system a little before I do anything else, he said. Okay, Anya said and went to feed the cores to the women who were extremely late and thus needed to be prioritized with the cores. The woman that was pregnant the longest was a lady who had turned into a swordfish. She had the outer physique of a swordfish, including gills and a sharp point on her head, but her interior was still that of a mammal. She was resting as a lot of her energy was drained into her child, trying to force it to cultivate even faster so that when she did deliver it, it was already a spirit transformation cultivator. How are you doing, Gina? Anya said softly as she swam close to the girl. Sister Anya. Hi, the woman said weakly. She barely had any strength to talk at all. Here, I've brought you something, Anya said and pulled out one of the beast cores. This is a beast core from a high immortal beast. Do you think you can handle it? The woman's body found some strength hidden in her when she heard that. High immortal? Really? Are men killed such a strong beast? Not exactly, but you don't have to worry about that, Anya said. Eat this. She fed the woman the beast core, which the woman ate gratefully. She definitely needed the added energy that came with eating a beast core, and her child definitely needed that. Not only that, but there was also the case that the core was in fact very good and would help her a ton. The woman ate the core happily as the energy flew into her and her child. The chi in the core was indeed a lot, and it took some time for both of them to fully consume it all. However, when she did finally consume it, something happened. She felt something. Oh no, the woman said. Gina, are you alright? Anya said. Sister Anya, I think my water just broke, she said. Anya's eyes went wide. What, are you sure? She asked, but even she could check it and it was correct. The woman was indeed ready to give birth. The energy from the core she had just eaten was the final push her child needed to come into this world. I don't think he's strong enough, the woman said with a worried face. Sister Anya, he will die. Please do something. Stop it. Anya paled a little. I can't stop it, she said. No, you have to do something. Please, Gina started crying. Anya's eyes looked around searching for something until she saw her master coming towards her. Master, she is giving birth. Can you stop it? She asked. No, I cannot, Ning said. Rather, I will not. What? Why not? Anya asked. Ning looked at the woman and felt the cultivation base of the unborn boy inside her womb. It was a nascent soul cultivation base. The child would not survive at all. Turn into your human form, Ning told the woman. Huh? What? Gina looked around confused and tried to look towards Anya to find some answer, but even Anya didn't know what was going on. Master, what are you doing? She asked. Saving her baby, Ning said. Change into your human form. The woman still didn't know what to do at all. Anya looked at her master for a second and back at the woman. Do what he says. He will save you and your child for sure, Anya said with a confidence that seemed unfounded but was somehow there. With no other choice, the woman nodded. Slowly, the woman's swordfish body changes into that of a human with a bulging stomach. Ning grabbed Anya's hand and then the woman's hand. In the next moment, they vanished. The three of them appeared on top of a remote island, one of the few ones on the planet that had any sort of vegetation on it. Ning laid the woman down on the grass and used his sense to check that the baby was indeed ready to come out. The child was long overdue. However, there was another problem now. The child is too big to come out normally, he said. Since the child was nearly 2 years late, he was the size of a 2-year-old child as well. It was a miracle that the woman's womb wasn't even bigger than it already was. What do we do now? Anya asked. Nothing fancy, Ning said and pulled out a new blanket before laying it below the woman. I will have to do this quickly. He had to take the baby out without hurting the woman. He closed his eyes and placed his hand on the woman's body. He felt the baby inside and the umbilical cord that was attaching it to the mother. He slowly planned what to do next and opened his eyes. The moment he did, a small spear chi formed inside the woman's womb that instantly cut the umbilical cord in two. At the same time, he used his teleportation power to teleport himself and the mother a meter to the left. The moment he appeared elsewhere, time slowed down for him as he looked to his right and slowly reached out his hand. The baby that had been inside the woman was out now as he had been left behind during the teleportation. Ning caught him and put him on a blanket before handing him to Anya. Make him breathe, he said. Anya quickly did what she was used to make the child breathe by clearing his nose and his chest. A moment later, the child started crying. Ning looked at the woman who didn't know what had just happened. There is still a lot inside you that needs to be pushed out, so take your time. In the meantime, look, it's your son. While Anya helped the woman Gina and her child, Ning looked around at the water world and asked, do you think the people here are fed up with living in such a bad world? He asked. Fed up? Anya asked as she looked around. I don't think so, primarily because they have known nothing else aside from this. This is normal life for them, and they would never be fed up with normal life. Yes, that's true, but they must want a life where they can live more freely, right? Ning thought. Do you think they would accept it if I offered it to them? Anya turned around with a shocked look on her face. Master, are you intending to bring all of them along? She asked. Yes, Ning said. Although, I'm not sure just how many of them will accept. If you really want to help, you should go for it. Give them the opportunity and let them decide if they want to leave or not, Anya said. Yes, I should do that, Ning said as he nodded. Then, in the next second, his divine sense spread throughout the world, covering the entire planet in one go. The moment he completely captured the world in his head, he sent his invitation to every single human out there that wanted to leave. All they had to do was fly out of the ocean and he would take them to a place where they no longer had to worry about themselves or their children. Every single human being heard him and started wondering if he was real or not. Most were confused, while some thought he was someone evil who was going to hurt them. But there were enough of them that were desperate that they took his opportunity and ran for it. One after another, the humans swam outside the ocean and flew into the sky. They were in their human form and were impatiently waiting for Ning. They were praying that what they had just heard wasn't in their head and was actually true. Ning took Anya back to her small community where she helped convince everyone to leave with her. Most of the people in the group were ones that had never seen the other world. They had been born here and had thus spent their entire life in these waters. However, they had heard of the other worlds from Anya and similar other ascended individuals who spoke of a different life. A better life. Rowan and the others arrived not long after. He couldn't believe that Ning had returned and it was his words that he had heard not long ago. Ning wasn't close to Rowan, or at least he didn't think of it that way. He was Anya's husband, Sonia and Tanya's father, but in some way, he felt the most distant in that family for him. It was probably because he had spent way too much time with the others, whether it was by teaching them or various other ways. Blue was closer to Rowan than even Ning was. After Ning had disappeared, everyone was living in the origin, so they were close to each other that way. Alright. Let's hurry up. Gina is waiting for us, Ning said and had everyone gather up. After they were all together and were grabbing each other's hands, Ning teleported them all out of the water directly into the island where Gina was. He dropped them all and let Blue be the defender while he went to get the others. He teleported around the world, blinking in and out of existence for the people on the island. Every time he disappeared, he would come back a few seconds or a minute later with more people in tow. He teleported away maybe close to 100 different times, and in that time, he brought back about 20,000 different people. That was a number that most of these people hadn't even expected to have existed. They didn't know about the metropolis that was built underwater in various other locations in this world after all. Ning looked at everyone that was gathered and shook his head. Only 20,000, he thought. There were easily over 3 million people living in this world, but somehow only 20,000 had decided to leave. Well, what can I really do? It's their choice anyway, he thought, and slowly drifted below. The island where he had brought them was so crowded that people had to fly away from it just to not bump into each other while standing still. Ning looked at everyone and spoke. You all heard my voice earlier today, and it's true. I will bring you out of this world, he said. After I bring you to another world, I will not help you anymore. In regards to finding food or shelter, you will have to work on your own, he said. What I can promise you is that you will get to live amongst humans and not fishes, and that you will have to never live every waking hour in fear that a strong beast will come to attack you. Do you still wish to come with me? Yes. Everyone shouted. Ning looked at them all. Good. Then follow me, he said as he turned around and opened a portal midair that led them to a massive grassland in the Heaven's Court continent that was next to the Blackspire continent. Go in, Ning said. The people were a little hesitant to go in, but after the first person went in, everyone started to go in. One by one, the people entered through the portal while Ning stayed on this side to keep the portal open while they entered. Since there were thousands of people, he didn't want the portal accidentally closing after a few minutes. It took them all at least an hour to go through the small portal, and once everyone was gone, Ning walked through as well. He looked back at the world of water through the portal before closing it, never to see that world ever again. Ning lifted his hand and a ball of light flew into the dark sky that suddenly exploded to turn into a map. It was a map of the Heaven's Court continent. Everyone, listen up, Ning shouted toward the thousands of people who were rowdy as a flea market. They finally shut up after seeing the map and looked toward Ning. This is the map of this continent. There are 3 continents in this world, but this is the one I've brought you to. This is a massive piece of land, so you won't have to live inside water again, Ning said. However, as a result of coming here, you will no longer be able to become a fish anymore. Burn this image into your mind and go find the closest human civilization and try to find a home for you. If you can't, make one in the forests. Everything you need is up here. If you don't understand something, I'm sure there are those amongst you that understand it well. So let them explain. And if possible, try to follow the lead of someone who ascended from a similar world so you won't get lost. That is all I will be helping you with, good luck. Ning took Blue, Anya, and Rowan and teleported away, leaving the tens of thousands of people there in a bit of disarray. However, these people very soon found a way out of there by following the map in the sky and walked towards the various human civilizations that were listed on it. As long as they got close to those cities or villages, they could find something to do and find a way to live in this world. Ning arrived outside the portal to the secret realm in the Nightfall City and entered it. He walked into the origin along with the other 3 who were immediately delighted to see such a vibrant place again. At the same time, they all noticed each other. Waterworks started again and Ning stood to the side as everyone got together to reunite after a long time. This was something he had seen far too many times, and somehow he still smiled when he saw it. Even Ely was smiling and crying while hugging Anya and Blue. Blue tried to appear stoic, but he was soft at the heart without a doubt. Anya and Rowan hugged their daughters and grandchildren, and one by one they started introducing their own children and grandchildren. Ning saw Iris frightened and nervous about meeting her own great-great-grandmother who she had never seen before. She had heard so much about her, and finally, she was meeting her. A few minutes later, one of them came and dragged Ning into their group where they all hugged each other with happy smiles on their face. Ning finally got some freedom nearly half an hour later and left the group with each other. At the same time, Ely came with him and started asking some questions. You got 2 at the same time, huh? she said. No wonder you were gone for so long. Well, that part was because I wasted some hours having some fun, Ning said. He told Ely about the matches in the arena where he fought until he was finally up against the champion, Blue. That sounds just like you, she said with a bit of a chuckle in her voice. And then Anya's world must have taken some time because you were bringing so many people. Everyone was already aware of that information as Anya hadn't stopped talking about it once she had returned. Yeah, I felt like letting them choose their way of life. Not many chose to leave, Ning said and shook his head. Anyway, I need to go save someone else's life. Who? Knight. Is he in trouble? Ely asked with a worried look on her face. No, it's not Knight. Knight is fine, I'm talking about Varsal, Ning said. He has been immortal for far too long and has been waiting for me to bring him back some cure. I need to treat him. Oh, thank God it's not about Knight, she said. All right, go help him. Ning nodded and called Helios. What can I do? Helios asked. Call Varsal, Ning said. Tell him his bamboo is here. Okay, Helios said and went to call Varsal. A few minutes later, the mortal young man came up to Ning with an excited and hopeful look. Is it true? Did you find it? He asked. Yes, I got it, Ning said and brought out the green bamboo from his storage. The bamboo was thin and about a meter long. Varsal used his alchemy knowledge to learn about bamboo, but he had no idea. He had never seen anything like this before after all. What do I do? Make it into a pill? Varsal asked. Well, no, we have to do something far more simple, but infinitely more painful, Ning said. Varsal was a little scared. Painful? What are we doing? He asked. Ning shook his head. It's better if you are unconscious for this part, he said. In the next moment, Varsal fell to the ground after having lost consciousness. Well, here goes nothing. Ning took the bamboo and drove it through the young man's stomach, cutting open the dantian slightly. He had made sure to damage it enough to release the energy held within, but not so much that it couldn't be healed at all. At the same time, he continuously healed the young man as he knew just how fragile his body was, being thousands of years old. The heaven-devouring bamboo got to work and devoured every single instance of chi that was inside the young man's dantian. Soon enough, it emptied the dantian completely and then started draining the young man's blood and essence. Ning quickly pulled it back out and healed the wound along the way. The bamboo started devouring the energy from his own hand, and if he let it continue, it would certainly steal away all of his energy. Ning chuckled and crushed it. The bamboo was destroyed and it could no longer devour any more energy. Ugh! Varsal grunted as he slowly woke up in his own room, surrounded by Marcus, who had a worried look on his face. Father? He asked with his head still in a daze. What? Where am I? Varsal, are you okay? Are you hurt? Marcus asked worriedly. Why would I be? Suddenly he remembered what he was doing. He had gone away because of a summon and had seen the bamboo that was going to. He quickly touched himself, looking all around him. However, he found no changes. There was nothing new about him. Was I not healed? He thought. Son? Marcus asked. Varsal couldn't help but be unable to hide a disappointed look. I'm okay, father. I'm not hurt, he said. Good, now tell me. What were you doing out there? Why did that? Marcus hesitated a bit and spoke in a low voice. Bastard bring you in here? The senior brought me here, Varsal said. Yes, he fucking did. What were you doing with him? He asked. He said that he had a way to heal my condition so I could no longer be without a cultivation base, he said. Marcus shook his head. That bastard is a liar. He took away Helios, and now he is trying to take away you. Don't listen to him, he said. Since when does that make someone a liar? Ning asked. Marcus stepped back in fear. What the fuck are you doing in here? He shouted. God, chill man. I'm not here to hurt someone. I'm here to check up on your son. I had Helios keeping an eye on him until he woke up, Ning said and moved to check on Varsal. He closed his eyes and looked at the wound on his dantian. You're still a little wounded from your healing procedure, Ning said. There is a hole in your dantian that will be needed to fix before you can cultivate. Also, your meridians are in a terrible state, so you will need to eat some heavenly pill to fix that. I can cultivate? Varsal asked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Of course, Ning said. What, did you think I was lying when I said I had a way? And no, I was just, it's hard to believe something like that after being immortal for so long, Varsal said. I understand, Ning said. Anyway, regarding the pill. I can make the pills. I have quite a good knowledge of alchemy, Varsal said. Great. Ning said. But you won't be making any pills. I have just brought back people that can make way better pills than a mortal like you ever can, and she also happens to be going to learn everything there is to be known about alchemy very soon. Within the next 3 days, Helios will come to get you to eat some pills and get tested. Go with him, Ning said. I don't know if I will be around during that time, but it won't matter to you. As for now, rest up, Ning said and turned around to leave. Varsal remained in awe after hearing the unbelievable. Was this really happening? Was he really going to get healed? Even Marcus couldn't help but be surprised at what he was hearing. He quickly ran after Ning and stopped him. Are you telling the truth? Is my son really going to heal? He can cultivate again? He asked. Man, why do you not trust me? Ning asked. I have no reason to lie to you all. Marcus hesitated a bit when he heard that and nodded. Thank you, he said as he bowed a little. Thank you for helping heal my son. I am certain that I would have been unable to do so without your help. Don't mind it, Ning said. Anyway, make sure he rests, and don't let him eat anything with chi in it. That will be very dangerous. Yes, absolutely, Marcus said. Thank you again. Ning nodded and waved goodbye. He was surprised to not hear any cursing this time around. He figured that Marcus was very grateful for helping heal his son. He teleported back inside the origin and went to find Anya to tell her everything. After mentioning the young man that was ill, she decided to go and make some pills to help him. Ning gave her the most extensive piece of knowledge on alchemy out there that not only worked for this world but in fact this entire universe. Every single ingredient, every single beast, and every single possible pill. Ning gave Anya all that he could so she could become the best alchemy figure in this entire universe. Anya was very overwhelmed at first, but slowly she got a handle on her fear. She was immortal and she had all the time in the world. With Ning as her master, she had nothing to fear, so she could continue practicing alchemy forever and ever. I can give this to my children too, right? She asked. Yes, but only give your immediate family for now. Don't let anyone know about the existence of this book and instead teach it to them indirectly, Ning said. Also, take this. Ning handed her something. Anya took what she had received and looked at it curiously. However, no matter how she looked, it was just a normal stone. What's this? She asked. Call Helios, he said. Anya was confused. Who's Helios? She asked. Just call him, Ning said. Okay, Helios? She called out. Helios came out of nowhere and stood in front of Anya, giving her a scare. What? Who is he? She asked. He's Helios, Ning said. The will of this world. Ning had to spend half an hour explaining everything about Will and Helios to Anya, who couldn't believe that something like that even existed. Oh, poor soul, Anya said. Is this right? I don't want to own him. Ning smiled. Then free him, he said. How? Anya asked with a confused look on her face. Just destroy his oath stone. Anya's fist opened up and the powdered stone dropped to the floor in front of her. She looked back up to see the happy and proud face of her master. To the side, Helios was in utter shock, something he had not felt ever in his life. I am free, he said, unable to process what had just happened. There you go, Ning said. You can thank her and go do whatever you want. I can leave? He couldn't help but ask. You no longer need to ask. Not only are you free, but you are also the strongest entity in the world, aside from me. Go do what you want to do, Ning said. Helios looked around with a confused and worried look. I don't have any, he said. I have been working for the others for so long that I do not know what it's like being free. Well, there is no hurry then, Ning said. Just stick around for a while, mingle with the people in here. I'm sure you will figure out what you want to do soon enough. Don't worry, Helios. I will help you figure out what you want to do. I will have my descendants help with that as well, Anya said. Helios still didn't understand what to do in this situation, but he did understand one thing. He was finally free. Thank you, he said. For this one move of destroying his oath stone, Helios would forever be grateful to Anya. Now that that's settled, I will go get Night, Ning said. Make those pills for the kid. Helios, I hope you will stick around for a while and help Anya here. Yes, I will, Helios said with a smile on his face. Ning left the place unworried and went to see Ely. Since Helios was a will of this world, he was unable to hurt anyone, which dropped the risk of letting him roam freely by a lot. He met up with Ely and told her that he was leaving again. Good, He's the last one and you'll be done, right? She asked. Ning smiled toward Ely. I can tell you for certain that this will be my last trip for a long while, he said. He tore a rift in space, creating a spatial portal between here and a planet that was in the far reaches of the galaxy. Ely gave a suspicious look. What are you hiding? She asked. You will see, Ning said. It might take me a few months, so you can go into deep cultivation for a while. What? Why so long? Ely asked. Time shenanigan, Ning said. I will have to be in places where time moves much slower than here. Oh, okay, Ely said. Still try to be quick. I will try for sure, Ning said. See you later. He walked through the portal which closed behind him. When he arrived on the other side, the sun had already set. He looked at the patch of the forest he had arrived in and quickly tried to find a way around it. He walked deeper into it, towards where he would be able to find night, and at some point, he realized that he could no longer see anything else at all. He was confused for a second before realizing what was happening here. Ah, I see, he said to himself before spreading his divine sense all around to look for something. There you are. Ning walked in the direction where the darkness got so thick that even the plants all around had died from the lack of sunlight for many years. No human or animal wanted to come here either due to the lack of vision and disorientation that came with being around someone of the midnight phoenix species. Ning, however, had no problem at all as he arrived in front of the giant knight that slept carelessly. Just his sleeping body was larger than most houses Ning had been around, and the soft, black phoenix flames that burned on his body made him pretty much unapproachable. Are you going to keep sleeping forever? Ning asked with a rather loud voice. Knight suddenly opened his eyes and stood up. His massive body got even larger as he opened his wing which spanned nearly 50 meters from tip to tip. Without any hesitation, he sent down a rain of feathers all of which burned with the black flame that could destroy everything. Ning remembered these flames from back when he fought the Midnight Phoenix in Genesis Trials. He remembered how afraid he was of the strong Phoenix he had to fight. He couldn't help but chuckle at how weak he was back then. He moved his hands and the feathers were destroyed, nothing of them remaining at all. Not even the black fire. Is that how you greet me after so long? Ning asked. Knight was about to attack again, but he stopped. He heard the voice and only then did he look at who he was fighting. His dark, abyss-like eyes grew wide when he recognized him finally. Master? He asked. The deep voice that came from the giant beast reverberated throughout the forest. Hi, Knight. Did I disturb your sleep? He asked. Master, you're back. Without missing a single beat, Knight got much smaller than before and jumped onto Ning's chest to hug him. I can't believe you are back, Master. Did you ascend too? I finally don't have to be alone. Ning patted the bird. You must have been lonely, he said. It's good that you slept your way through most of the years. Well, there wasn't much to do here anyway, Knight said. I already reached the peak long ago and have been stuck here this way. Ning checked his cultivation base and nodded. You were dealt the wrong end of the stick, I'm afraid. Everyone else went to a world with a very high ceiling, while you ended up here where the highest one can go to is the low immortal realm. But don't worry, I am here to fix that. Fix it? How can you fix the ceiling of this world? Knight asked with a confused look on his face. I don't have to, Ning said. I can instead take you to a world with a much better ceiling. I've made a place where I have taken everyone else to so they can live without worry like they did before everyone started ascending. Somewhere different from Kumiya? Knight asked. Yes, another world, Ning said. It's called Giania and you can grow a lot there. Is everyone there? Knight asked. You're the last of the ascended group that I have to take back, Ning said. Knight couldn't help but find some happiness in those words. I would like to go to that place, Master. How do we go? He asked. I have my way, Ning said. But I would like to go somewhere else before that. I hope you won't mind if we take a detour. No, Master. Where are we going? Knight asked. Well, I'm in for a bit of a surprise as well, Ning said. Are you ready to leave or do you have anything else you need to do? No, I'm ready, Knight said. His body turned smaller until he could perch on top of Ning's shoulder. All right, let's go then. Ning opened a portal in front of him that led him away from this galaxy, going back to the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. He arrived on a planet named Pantheon, somewhere in the mountains. He wanted to spread his divine sense to check the place, but only then did he realize that there was no chi on this planet. Huh? Only mana, he said and brought out an SS rank mana stone from his storage before starting to absorb it as he flew away from there. Where exactly are we, Master? Knight asked. I feel uncomfortable here. Of course, Ning said. There is no chi here after all. Don't worry, you will get used to it. Blue and Aegis had a similar problem when they first went to Vilmore with me. I see, he said. Is this Vilmore? No, this is a planet called Pantheon, Ning said. I've never been here before, so you and I are on the same boat here. Well, maybe not exactly since I know a bit about this world. Even as he said that, Ning was internally getting shocked at how similar this world was to that of Earth. If he had arrived here without any prior knowledge of where it was, he would have thought it was Earth. There were cars, trains, planes, etc. that were similar to Earth. There were phones and computers and other technologies similar to Earth. In fact, almost everything was similar to Earth, as if all life in the universe were bound to reach the same state at some time during their lifetime. It's almost uncanny, Ning thought as he watched the streets full of similar vehicles to Earth. It was as if someone had used Earth as a model to create another planet, but decided to make it on a different geographical structure. Ning arrived in one of the cities and slowly landed to not get people suspicious. He walked the rest of the way with night flying in the sky like a normal crow. Ning looked at the advertisement boards and various other places, which quickly helped him learn one thing. Dungeons? This world has it too, huh? I thought it would be just that wormhole. Ning had come here for a naturally formed wormhole that was somewhere in this city. He had no idea that just like Earth, this planet had dungeons in them too. Are there constellations in this world too? Ning asked. No, Ning thought amusedly. Anyway, let's go find that wormhole. Ning walked through the city, making his way to a place that was not far away. Night flew through the sky while following him and he too reached the place. It was a small park with a children's playground, but it seemed to have been abandoned since the arrival of a dungeon here too. Ning looked at the dungeon gate that swirled with white lights. That's not the wormhole, right? He asked. That looks like a normal dungeon. What are we looking for, Master? Night asked from not far away. I don't know, Ning said. System, where is the wormhole? The dungeon has formed on top of the wormhole and is technically the same. However, depending on the state of the gate, you can either enter the dungeon or go through the wormhole. Wait, so that is what I'm looking for, Ning said with a surprised face. First time I'm seeing something like this. He walked closer to the park and saw the security that was around. They looked at different licenses from various people that went in, so Ning got a good idea of the state of the world. Those must be hunters then, he thought. Or whatever they call them here. System, forge me a license too. A small card appeared in front of him which Ning caught quickly and read. Awakener, That's what they call mages in this world. He walked over to the gate and showed his card to get in. Night freely flew above the security and landed on Ning's shoulder. A few people looked at Ning curiously, mostly for Night, but they weren't going to bother him. Now how do I access this wormhole? He asked. You will need to make a key that resonates with this dungeon gate to bring out the actual wormhole. It will only come out for a brief moment, so you will need to be quick. Understood, Ning said. The system taught him how to make a key, and using his mana, Ning forged a metal key that he brought to the dungeon gate. The next moment, the key in his hand started glowing red and so did the dungeon gate. The people around him backed off when they saw the color. Ning, however, saw the opportunity and took it. He walked into the Crimson Gate to go through the wormhole. Ning arrived in another world, this time in a different universe. This was not the same universe that was affecting Earth, but rather the other one. As such, this was his first time coming here at all. Until now, there hadn't even been a single instance of portals or wormholes to this universe on Earth, so Ning had no way of coming here previously. The moment he smelled the fresh air in the forest he had arrived in, Ning couldn't help but frown. What's wrong, Master? Night asked. There's something other than mana in this world, and that irritates me, Ning said with a sour look on his face. What's wrong? What else is there? Night asked. Something corrupted from mana itself, magicules, Ning said. This was proof that a form of will was definitely influencing this world, if not present in it. I shouldn't absorb any energy here, Ning thought. What's magicules, Master? Night asked. Is it bad? It's not necessarily bad, Ning said. It's only that, if there is magicule here, then there certainly is something else here as well. What else? Night asked. Demons. A young man with two self-made bone daggers in his hand stood in an empty hall with blood all over him. Some were his, some were the demons he had killed. His bloodshot eyes looked straight ahead at the demon in front of him with a clear will to kill. I did not know there was a human in my realm, the demon spoke. That is a surprise to me for sure. The demon had 2 horns that curved backward. He had crimson skin and a batwing that was nearly 3 meters wide. His overall body was 2 meters tall as well, and his muscles seemed to be just as large. The young man breathed heavily as his tired body couldn't do much else at the moment. He had, after all, killed so many demons before arriving at the throne room. He was tired to the bone at the moment. Still, he needed to fight. After what he had learned the last few days, he knew he needed to fight here, even if it meant his life would have to be forfeited. For the sake of the humans that were living, he needed to do something. That was why he had come here after all. To find the Demon King and somehow force him to take back the order he had given. Demon King. He shouted at the demon in front of him. Call back your men, or I will kill you. Huh. The Demon King laughed when he heard that. A mere human like you thinks you can order me? The Demon King? My 4 generals will soon arrive in your world. At that time, everyone in your world will either submit to us or die. There is no other way out of this. Then you leave me with no choice. The young man immediately used a skill to improve his speed. His leg hurt, but he kept going. He arrived beside the Demon King and tried to strike at his ribs. With his back attack, passive skill, the dagger would deal a lot of damage if it landed. However, before he could hit the Demon King's wings curled around him and the dagger struck the wing. The young man heard a clanking sound and understood that his attack had failed. So you have chosen death, the Demon King said and went on the offensive. The Demon King used the Demon King's Roar spell, making the young man flinch in fear. He used a cleansing spell on himself to remove the fear and got ready for the attack. The Demon King shot forward at an incredible speed. With his wings, he glided through the air as he arrived in front of the young man. He swung his sharp claw at the young man, nearly ripping his skin out. The young man jumped back in fear and took out a small thorn from his interdimensional storage. It was actually a quill that came from a demonic echidna he had killed not long ago. The B-ranked monster wasn't the most strong, but the poison in its quills was some of the most toxic things the young man had ever seen. So, he planned on using it on the Demon King today. As the Demon King was flying towards him again, the young man threw the quill at him. The quill struck his chest and surprisingly pierced him, immediately poisoning him with the demonic echidna's poison. However, that wasn't all. Poison touch, caustic burn, decaying touch, and other few similar skills were also activated when his quill landed on the Demon King. Ah! The Demon King shouted in pain and fell to the floor. He fidgeted on the floor like a fish out of the water while constantly shouting in pain. The young man breathed heavily as he watched the Demon King cry out in pain. Had he done it? Was this it? No, this was bad. If the Demon King died, who was going to command his army to return? They were already on their way to his world. If they weren't stopped, such strong demons would raze each and every city to the ground with rather ease. However, the Demon King was a figure that he couldn't just save. His death would mean that so many more would get to live. Not even just his world, but all the other worlds that this person was attacking. No, I must kill him, the young man thought. Ah! The Demon King continued crying on the floor in pain, so the young man slowly moved forward with his dagger. Just one single attack was all he was going to need. A single stab to the head and the Demon King would die. As for his 4 generals, the young man decided to spread the message of his death to force them to return. You will have to die now, the young man said as he arrived in front on the fallen Demon King and stabbed downward. Suddenly, the Demon King's hands moved at lightning speed and grabbed the young man's wrist before he could deliver the blow. Ah ha 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 ha! The Demon King's cries of pain turned to laughter all of a sudden. Ha ha! Did you really think a simple poison attack was enough to kill me? The Demon King? Do you think you are the only one with so many skills? Boy, you have no idea what it means for one to be a Demon King, do you? The young man looked at the Demon King with a shocked look in his eyes. He was mistaken and baited to attack the demon who wasn't even in pain. Now that he looked at it, the poison quill hadn't even done anything at all. No. The young man said in horror and brought down his other dagger to stab the Demon King's head. But before he could do it, something flashed, and in the next second, an intense pain spread through the young man's body. Arg! It was the young man's turn to cry out in agony this time. The Demon King stood back up while still holding the young man's other wrist and looked at the hand he had just cut off. "So weak," he said while shaking his head. "What were you thinking? How strong even are you?" He quickly analyzed the young man and sighed. "So many skills, but without any practice, those are all useless. As an S-ranked fighter with little to no experience, did you think you could kill me, the Demon King?" he asked. The young man was losing focus due to the lack of blood, but his passive healing skill was trying to help regrow his arm as well as it could. However, the loss of mana before he had come here was the biggest problem for his healing at the moment. Even then, the Demon King noticed it and couldn't help but frown. He slammed the young man onto the ground, creating cracks all over his floor. "It seems I underestimated you just a tad bit," the Demon King said. "Had I left you alone, you would have healed again and come back to kill me, wouldn't you? I'm not going to make that mistake. There are many questions I want to ask you about how you came here and why you were able to hide from my scouts, but none of that matter right now. All that matters is that you were here, and you are going to die," the Demon King said. The young man grunted and tried to say something, but the Demon King gave no thought. "Die." He lifted his feet and slammed them down on the young man as hard as he could. The ground cracked beneath his foot and a small crater appeared in the throne room. However, the Demon King did not feel a body beneath him, just air. "What's happening?" he asked with a confused look on his face. "What are you doing?" He lifted his feet and looked at the young man, but the young man was just as puzzled as he was. He had expected to die just now, but somehow he had been saved. "Phew." A voice spoke from the side. "I wasn't aware I would have to save someone in here. I would have come earlier if I knew that." To the shock of both the young man and the Demon King, a third party had arrived. "Who are you? Are you with this young man?" the Demon King asked while slowly stepping back in preparation for an attack. If the man in front of him could save someone from him while not even being present in the room, then he was certainly someone to be worried about. "Don't fear, I'm not here to kill you," Ning said as he walked into the throne room. He looked around at the room void of any flourishes and sighed. He stepped next to the young man who was hurt and placed his hand on the young man's chest. "Get up," instantly. The young man's left arm returned back to him and all the blood he had lost had returned as well. The mana and magicules he had lost had not returned, but just the rest alone was enough to surprise him. "Who is this man? And why is he so strong?" he thought. Ning looked at the young man with a confused look. "This isn't a place where humans can be. Why are you here?" he asked. I'm doing a dungeon clear," the young man said. "A dungeon?" Ning asked. "You know this is not a dungeon, right?" "I know," the young man said, "but that was what I came here for." "I see," Ning said. "Well, as long as you know." He turned away from the young man and looked at the Demon King from head to toe and couldn't help but shake his head in a sigh. "Who are you? Why are you in my palace?" the Demon King demanded. Ning chuckled at the question. "Don't be so on guard. I'm going to tell you everything anyway," he said. The Demon King did not do as he said at all. In fact, he got even more worried and used some spells to improve his defense. Ning couldn't help but sigh. "Well, I should have expected this much," he said. "Although, it's truly a shame that you were born into such a world. To be a demon, to be this cruel and callous, that was not what I had expected of you." Who are you?" the Demon King asked with a hesitating voice. "It's fine, you don't know me. You lost all your memories after your reincarnation after all," Ning said. "But I'm here now, so everything will be all right, I see." The Demon King couldn't help but frown. "Who is I see?" he asked. "You are," Ning said. "Or you were, in your past life. You were my disciple, my friend, my brother. Here, it will be much faster if you have your memories back." Ning disappeared from where he was and arrived in front of the Demon King before placing his palm on his head. The Demon King tried to move back, but the moment he was touched, a massive amount of information was sent into his brain, overloading it for a second. The Demon King fell to the ground, surprising the young man. He couldn't believe how easily the Demon King was defeated. However, the Demon King stirred and got back up. He looked at Ning again, but this time around, his eyes had softened a lot and was even a little moist. "Inikaka." Ning couldn't help but tear up when he heard that. "Welcome back, I see." "Inikaka. You came," Haisi said with tears dripping from his eyes. "Of course," Ning said. "I made a promise to my friend after all." Haisi couldn't stop himself from jumping onto Ning in a hug. Ning couldn't help but hug back as well. After a few seconds, which felt like a long while, Haisi let go of Ning and looked at the bird on his shoulder. Knight, you're here too, he said. Hello, brother Haisi, Knight spoke. He was feeling strange as well. It was a mixture of happiness and surprise that he wasn't expecting to feel today. Master didn't tell me where we were going, so it is a pleasant surprise to see that we were coming here for you. I see, Haisi said. He grinned a demonic smile, which he couldn't just get rid of now that he had got his previous memories. To think you would end up becoming a demon king, I expected many things, but never this, Ning said. What do you even do around here? Does the constellation make you work a lot? The what? Haisi asked. The constellation. You don't know? Never mind then, Ning said. Now, I know you don't have any family here, but are you willing to leave or not? Your previous family is back home waiting for you. Haisi, the Demon King thought for a bit. I would love to return, Inikaka. Someone else can take my position here anyway. The realm appoints a Demon King whenever one is absent. Great, Ning said. We should leave then. He turned around and the young man appeared in front of him. What do you want? Ning asked. The Demon King's forces are encroaching on my world. Please make him stop them, sir, the young man said. Oh. Ning turned to look at the Demon King. You should stop them. Haisi shook his head. It's not up to me, he said. The realm orders them to move. I am only the mouth they use to receive the orders. I cannot make them stop as that is not the command. Fine, then I'll just kill them, Ning said. No, Haisi shouted. Some of them are my friends and brothers I have found in this world, Inikaka. You cannot kill them. Please kill them if you can, sir. Or else my world will be destroyed by these savages. We have no chance at survival at all, the young man said. Ning couldn't help but frown. Should he listen to reason? Or to his longtime friend? He couldn't decide whether he should let it be or go and kill the demons that were on their way to destroy Pantheon. Screw it, Ning said. I will go with a different approach where both of you win. Ning did what he thought was right. He brought back the 4 generals and the army to the Demon King's city again and placed them there. He couldn't stop them from going out, but with the absence of a Demon King, they would first have to sort that out before they could attack. If Haisi was right, that would take a few years for sure. That was the most Ning could do to save the humans, but also not hurt the demons who Haisi saw as his own people. The thousands of years worth of memory he had as a cultivator definitely overshadowed the few dozens of memories as the Demon King, but Ning still couldn't discount the feelings or connections he had made here. That should be enough for the humans to prepare when the demons come knocking eventually, Ning said. Is that enough? The young man frowned a little. It's not nearly enough, but I have to take whatever I can get. I am not in the spot to make demands anyway. So, thank you, sir. Ning smiled. You should return with us, he said. I can take you back home. Why you can? The young man got excited. However, a second later, his excitement faded away. No, I can't go back. It had been too long since he had been here, and his only sister was sure to have outgrown him by now. He would love to go back and see how she was doing, but deep in his heart, he knew he had to stay here. If humanity was ever going to have any chance against the demons, it was through him and this opportunity he had received. He could not squander it by just going back. Are you sure? Ning asked with a surprised look on his face. I don't think you can go back in any other way. I can, the young man said. I just have to wait a while. Ning looked at the man weirdly. How old even are you? Can you live in time? Me? I am 24 years old, the young man said. Or wait, he moved his hands in front of him and checked something. Yes, I've been 24 years old for the last 8 years, the young man said. Don't worry about me, sir. I'll be fine. But if I may make a request. What is it? Go on, Ning said. I have, had a sister on the outside. I don't know how it is, but I hope she is still alive. If she is, can you please check up on her and see how she is doing? Maybe help a bit. Here, please give her this if you can. If you can't, just keep it, the young man said. Ning took the stones he was handed and was a little surprised. Some of the stones were mana stones that he was familiar with, but the other was not. He had to ask the system to learn what it was, a skill stone. Using that stone gave anyone a skill they wanted. Ning had the thought of using one on himself. But he didn't really need any stone to give him skills, he could do it himself. Sure, I'll take these to her. If her life is not going well, I will help her improve it a bit, rest assured. The young man smiled. My sister's name is Andrea L. You don't have to tell me, Adler. I know everything, Ning said. The young man looked surprised as he hadn't even given his name out yet. He understood that Ning wasn't lying. Thank you, he said. I will have to go now. I need to complete this mission before the next week. Go ahead, Ning said. The young man left the town and went back into the jungle where he hunted magical monsters for himself. All right, we should leave now, Ning said. He grabbed onto Night and High-C and teleported next to the wormhole that led outside. It wasn't usable by just anyone, so Ning had to use quite a lot of energy to open it again. Ooh, before we go, I need to do some makeover on you. Ning waved his hand and Hiese's demonic body changed to that of a human. I am sure there is a human body in there somewhere. It will take some time before I can reverse the process of your corruption. High-C nodded. The three of them walked through the portal and appeared in the park outside. Ning took the two of them far away to the outskirts of the city before leaving them for a few minutes to visit Andrea. Adler's sister had awakened as well and was working in some guild to make ends meet. She was a D-ranked awakener, so there wasn't much she could earn, but whatever she did earn was enough for her. Ning arrived at her home and told her about what happened to her brother and how she wouldn't be seeing him for a long time. He was likely to be inside even after she died. Ning handed her what her brother had given her, and in that, he sneaked in a small SS-ranked mana stone. He told her what it was and to never reveal it to anyone. With that, the girl could rise up in ranks quickly and become self-sufficient. Once that happened, her life would change for the better for sure. Ning arrived back to see Night and High-C talking to each other about what they had been doing since the last time they were together. They stopped talking once Ning was there. So, where are we going, Inikaka? Back to Kumiya? He asked. No, it's a new planet called Giania. You two are the last ones that have yet to return, he said. He tore a silver hole in the fabric of space that led directly inside the origin of the Giania. Ning walked in along with the final group of people he had to bring back. With this, he could stop roaming the world and enjoy his life with the ones he loved and cared about. 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. Why did you call us, Inikaka? High-C asked. Ning had called everyone to come to assemble for a few minutes as he had some things to say. High-C, Anya, Night, Aegis, Blue, Hijacker, Dahlia, Iris, Varsal, Helios, and many other people that were staying in the origin assembled to where Ning had called them. High-C stood at the front. He was the weakest of them all with barely any cultivation base, but he was certainly the one with the most authority beside Ning here, perhaps even more so than Ely. As the one that gave his life to protect them all, everyone in the group respected and adored High-C. He also had a naturally cheerful personality that everyone adored. At the moment, he looked nothing like a demon at all. His horns were gone, his wings had shed, and his claws had transformed into normal nails. Even his crimson skin was nothing more than rose-tinted at the moment. Ning had spent an extensive amount of time helping him recover from the effects of corruption that came with using magicules. It had taken a long time to get completely removed from his system, but now it had, and High-C had even started on his cultivation journey. A few more years and he would become an immortal. After that, he could fully use the terrifyingly amazing cultivation skill that Ning had provided to every individual that had broken through to immortality. Master, I was making some pills. If it is not very urgent, I will need to go back, she said. Anya had learned the alchemy books that Ning had provided her, and at this moment her alchemy knowledge was terrifying. There would be nothing wrong with anyone saying that she was the best alchemist in the entire galaxy. She was even better than Ning, albeit Ning hadn't practiced making pills in a long time. Her cultivation base had also increased quite a lot, but it was obviously not as good as it should be since she had to spend most of her time learning alchemy from the books. She had made it a habit to teach her descendant every day, and as such her cultivation speed had definitely slowed a lot. She didn't mind it though. Having an immortal king cultivation base was enough for her to make pills. Ning looked at everyone that was gathered there for him. Blue and Night had cultivated a bunch. Aegis had also cultivated, along with his family. The Clavians had improved a lot, and Anya's clan was doing quite well as well. Even Varsal had managed to cultivate and become immortal in the last 100 years. He was a much more experienced person now than he was a century ago. After Helios was freed, he and Helios went around the world to experience what it was like. They had gone through many things in the last 100 years and were much more learned and jaded. Varsal no longer looked like a mortal even as his mannerisms had changed. As for Helios, he was no longer a naive will, but one that understood the world that had formed him. Ning looked at the improvement of the bunch and couldn't help but smile. "I have one good news, and one bad news," he said. The crowd looked at each other, trying to guess what he was talking about. "Master, what's going on?" Anya asked with a bit of a confused and concerned look. Ning smiled again. "I will start with the good news first," he said, and called Ely, who was standing not far behind him. Ely walked up front and stood next to him. Ning looked back at the crowd. "Notice anything different?" he asked. The group looked at her, but there was nothing different about Ely at all. Even if there were some physical changes, why would that be bad news at all? As everyone tried to figure it out, Helios was the first one to notice the change, as he was the only other person in the group that could possibly understand the height of what had happened. Also, he could read Ning's mind. "She's stronger now, much stronger," he said. "Strong?" Hai-Si looked at Ely, but his mortal senses could tell nothing. Even Anya couldn't tell anything with her immortal king senses. However, judging by the context, she could guess what had happened. "Immortal god?" she asked. "Has Sister Ely reached the immortal god realm already?" Ning smiled widely. "Yes," he said. "She reached the immortal god realm yesterday. I had taken her out to the flatlands so she could break through, so none of you realized." "That's amazing," Anya said. She came forward to hug and congratulate Ely, as everyone else did too. They all celebrated, as she was the first person to become an immortal god. After a while, the elated emotions faded and the people looked at Ning with concerned looks. Since the good news was done, they were now waiting for the bad news. "What is it, Inikaka? Just tell us," Hai-Si said. "Fine, here is the thing," Ning said. "The time has come for me to leave you guys and return." "Return? Return where?" some of them asked. However, the ones that were more important to Ning knew exactly what he meant. "You did say you had a family back where you came from," Anya said. "Are you going to return to them?" "Yes," Ning said. "I promised them I would return after I was done finding you all. I would have left a long time ago, but I decided to wait until Ely could reach the immortal god stage. Now that she has, it is time I go back." When do you plan on leaving, Inikaka?" Hai-Si asked. "Within the week," Ning said. "There are problems back on Earth too, so I should return as quickly as I can." "Okay," Hai-Si said with a puffed up chest. "Since this is going to be Inikaka's last week with us for who knows how long, let's make this the best week he's ever spent." The crowd shouted in agreement and everyone found something to do immediately. A festive atmosphere was created in the origin as everyone found something to be happy about. Some sang songs, some danced to them. Some laughed at old stories and some cried to them. Ning spent time with everyone for that entire week as they all made the best of the little time as they could. The origin was never as happy and chaotic as it was for that week, and neither would it be for years to come. Then after all that was over, they gathered for one final goodbye. Ning opened a portal to Earth and looked back at his own students and friends. Of the ones there, he had agreed to take only Night and Blue, as they were the only ones that he could take without feeling bad about taking them with him. Aegis had a family, so he was left behind. "So, this is goodbye," Ning said. "But it's not permanent. It may take 1,000 years or even tens of thousands of years, but once I solve the problems on Earth, I will come back for you all. After that, I will never be away from you. Goodbye, Inikaka. Goodbye, Master. Goodbye, Sister Ely. Goodbye, Night. Goodbye, Blue." Ning turned around and along with his wife and two beasts, entered the portal. Ning, Ely, Blue, and Night arrived on Earth, on the same island where Ning had previously been when he killed Strixus. It was nighttime, there was no sun to light up the world around them, not that they needed it anyway. "Are we here?" Ely asked as she looked around. All worlds looked the same, with the difference usually being the people living in it, so Ely couldn't really tell if they had in fact come back to Earth. "Yes, we're here," Ning said as he looked around. "How do you guys feel? Any uncomfortable feelings? The chi here is not as strong, so?" "No, I feel fine. I don't really have any problem," Ely said. "The chi is indeed quite thin, so it may take a lot of time to cultivate if I ever do use it up, but I don't think I will have to, will I?" "No," Ning said. "Especially since you are physically very strong as well." He looked at his two beasts as well. "And you too?" "I'm fine, Master," Blue said. "I feel fine as well," Night said. "Great," Ning said. "Now, take your human form if you can, which you should." The two beasts nodded and slowly changed into their human form. Blue changed into the bare-chested, blue-haired, blue-eyed champion of the fighting arena where he had remained for the longest time before Ning took him back. Night changed to a young man with a black robe and long black hair that seemed to light up in a fire at the ends. His pupils were pitch black, while his face was stark white, giving him a deathly look. Ning dabbed out the fires on his shoulders with no damage to his own hand. Don't keep these fires around you. They're dangerous. These people here are mostly mortals, so you have to be careful, he said. I'll keep that in mind, Master, Knight said. Also, make sure to remember the rules I taught you all. It is very important that you stay in line here so you don't get out of line, Ning said. What happens if we get out of line? Are there people here strong enough to stop us? Blue asked. No, but it will cause me a headache, that's for sure, Ning said. Just don't hurt people unless they are trying to hurt you back, Ning said. He turned around to find Ely with tears in her eyes and a smile on her face. Ning was a little surprised. Honey, why are you crying? He asked. Ely quickly wiped the tears off her face. I just saw my brother, she said. I can't believe he really is still alive. Ning couldn't help but smile when hearing that. Want to go meet him? He asked. No, not right now, she said. He seems to be busy with his guild work. I will go meet him once it is tomorrow for him. That works too, Ning said. Then let us go visit my family first. Ning didn't even have to teleport with them. All three of them could fly with him and arrive in Korea in less than 10 minutes. It was evening time in South Korea at the moment, so it was just the right time to go back home. They were so fast in the sky that South Korea's aerospace defense didn't even realize they had entered. There were systems put in place to warn against super-fast missiles, and the four of them were able to avoid it. Ning flew over to his uncle's house and landed in front of it. He rang the doorbell and walked inside just as people were starting to walk out. Brother? Young-hee couldn't help but get excited when he saw him. Are you back? Young-hee, how has it been? Ning said as he walked in. Ely, Knight, and Blue walked in as well, a little curious about how Ning's family would be. Brother, I've missed you. Young-hee cried and ran in front to hug him. But Ning stopped him before he got too close and patted his shoulders instead. I'm sure you've only missed the monastones you could get from me, he said. No way. I really did miss you, Young-hee said, but it was clear he wasn't trying to hide the fact that it was really the monastones that he wanted. He looked behind him and saw the three foreigners. His eyes fell on all three of them, ending on Ely. Gasp, wait, is she? Yes, Ning said. Let's go in. I will introduce her to everyone. Yes, Young-hee said. Sister-in-law, please come in. Ely smiled and said, thank you, in perfect Korean, surprising Young-hee. Whoa, you can speak such good Korean. Are you sure you're foreign? Young-hee couldn't help but ask. I'm certain I am, Ely said. Ning continued walking in and saw Hya, who was coming out to check on just who had come for her brother to shout this much. Oh, cousin. You're back, Hya said with a surprised face. When did you come back? 10 minutes ago, Ning said, and I've brought people. She looked behind him to see the three people. Young-hee, it's cold out here. Don't go on talking out here. Oh, sorry, he said. Please come in. All of them entered the house, and Ning could already hear the cartoon playing in the TV. Safandra realized that Ning had come back as well and couldn't help but shout, Ning. Ning turned around to look at her and Sorlus who were on the couch together. Hey, I'm back you guys, he said. Young-hee went to call his father, and along with him their grandmother. In less than a minute, everyone in the house was gathered. Everyone, this is Eleonora Riggett, my wife, Ning spoke out loud to introduce her. Ely walked forward and bowed a little to greet everyone. Hello, I'm Eleonora. You can call me Ely. I'm very pleased to have finally met you all, she said. They all remained quiet for a second before Ning's uncle spoke. Welcome to the family, child. Ning's grandmother asked many different questions to Ely about who she was, where she was from, and many other things. She and Ning had planned this for a literal 100 years, so there was no question out there that could stump them. Except one did come up. When will I get to see my great-grandchildren? The old woman asked. Ning coughed suddenly, and Ely found it hard to hold in her chuckle. Grandma, that's not something you should be asking so suddenly, he said. That's right, mother. Don't go asking the kids something like that. They're still very young, the uncle said. Young? What young? I had you when I was only 22, and they are way older than that, the old woman said. Don't compare the old times to today. Let the kids decide what they want for themselves, the uncle said. Don't listen to her. Do what you want. Ning gave a wry smile and said nothing else. Just then, Hye-ah nudged him to get his attention, which was something he absolutely wanted from this situation. What? Ning asked as she turned around. Something is happening there. She pointed towards the other corner of the room where the only two blue-haired and blue-eyed people were having a staring contest at each other. One was tall and buff, while the other was small and a child. However, that didn't stop the two from glaring at each other. Oh, of course, that would happen. Dragons were proud creatures after all. Sorless, don't try to pick a fight with Blue. You'll lose, Ning said. Hee. Listen to Master, little brat. You are weaker than me. Call me Big Brother from now on, Blue said. Tisk. Sorless clicked his tongue and turned away to leave. Wait, I said call me Big Brother. Don't just leave like that, Blue said before following behind Sorless. Ning sighed. Can you check on them? Make sure they don't fight because of their ego? He asked Safandra. Safandra sighed. Sure, she said and flew away. Knight sat on the couch, curiously watching the flashing images on the screen, which was the cartoon that the spirit and dragon had left playing. He had no idea what he was looking at, but he was absolutely entranced by it. Hye-ah nudged Ning again. Cousin, our rooms are full. We don't have any more place for all these people, she said. Oh, it's fine, Ning said. The other two don't sleep at all. Oh, Hye-ah was surprised. She looked towards Knight and got suspicious. Wait, are they similar to Sorless? Ning smiled and nodded. Not exactly, but in a way. She couldn't believe it at all. Where do you find these people? She asked. I found them long ago, and I only just went back to get them, Ning said. Speaking of which, I've been away for nearly 2 months, so why are you still living here? I would have thought that at least you or your brother would be living in a new house. We've tried looking for one, but the housing market is insanely pricey. You can't get a piece of land to build a house on without having to sell your soul to get it, she said with a sigh. We've been fine here anyway, so I didn't bother looking for any after the first few days. Ning sighed when he heard that. Fine, I will go look for a good one soon. It won't really matter what it costs anyway, he said. He reached into his storage space and pulled out 2 mana stones before handing it over to the two of them. I'm sure you were waiting for this, so have them. Hye-ah's eyes shined when she finally saw it again. Thank you, she said, but her eyes weren't even looking at Ning anymore. Her entire focus was on the mana stone. Young-hee was the same. He was completely entranced by the mana stone and didn't even say anything. The last stone, along with the technique that Ning had provided them with, had helped the two brothers and sisters go beyond what they could have reached in the next 5 years had they taken the normal trajectory in life. However, now, Hye-ah was an S-ranked mage, and her brother was also on the verge of becoming an S-ranked mage. Going from D rank to S rank in just 2 months was something Young-hee could have never thought of in his entire life. Well, I will have to go and make more for dinner now, so just sit around and... Let's just order some takeout for today, father, Young-hee said. It's too late to make anything anyway. It's all right, Ning said. We ate before we came. But you have to eat something, uncle said. We can't let a daughter who has come home for the first time go to sleep without feeding her anything. Well, Ning didn't know what to say. All right, Young-hee. Order some takeouts, the uncle said. Okay, Young-hee said and pulled out his phone. But only for you and your sister. We will feed Ning and daughter-in-law today, the uncle said. Young-hee shrugged. Takeouts were tastier anyway to him. I will go put on dinner, the uncle said and stood up to leave. Let me help you, uncle, Ely said. No, sit. You don't have to do anything, the uncle said. Why not? Am I not a daughter of this home? She asked. The uncle had no retort. All right, fine. Come help me in the kitchen, he said and continued. Ely went after him. Well, I've already eaten, so I'm going to sleep, his grandmother said and left as well. After they were gone, Ning turned to Hye-ah and called her closer. Tell me, what has happened in the time I was gone? He asked. Well, many things have happened, but I suppose you want the biggest news first, she said. Which is? Ning asked. Another sulfur monosulfide ranked dungeon has formed in Germany a month ago, she said. Until now, many have entered, but none have managed to leave. Another sulfur monosulfide ranked dungeon. Well, that's bad, Ning thought. Can't you just enter and destroy it? Hye-ah asked. I can, But, Ning sighed. Even if he ignored the political situation of the world where he wouldn't be allowed to enter a country's dungeon on a whim, there was still the problem with the constellations. He didn't know what the good constellations would do, but certainly, the bad ones would get angry at him for destroying another dungeon of such power. They had been waiting for the dungeon to develop so that they could show themselves to the world and gain some recognition. If he took that away from them, then the angry constellations would come to attack him. As a lone fighter, he would not be able to fight against all of them at all. I will have to be careful, he thought to himself. How many have entered exactly? Ning asked. Let me check, Haya said and pulled out her phone. 20A ranked hunters and 3S ranked hunters. What? Why the hell would they send such weaklings? Ning was angry to hear the news. Apparently none of the apostles are accepting the task at all. They're all refusing to enter, even when offered a lot of money, she said. Damn it, their constellations must have let them know how dangerous it is, Ning said to himself. Constellations? Haya asked with a confused look. Nothing, you don't have to think about it, Ning said. As he tried to think of something to do, his uncle came out and told him that the food was ready. Ning stopped thinking about it for now and went to have his dinner. He talked with his uncle over dinner too and sneakily checked his mage tier. 3rd tier, huh? He thought. That wasn't that bad considering he had barely awakened as one before. 3rd tier, that's B rank equivalent. He thought to himself. What people wouldn't do to have the same speed in mana cultivation as his uncle. His uncle asked many different questions to Ili, constantly trying to learn more about her. Ning was glad that they had practiced everything previously, or they would definitely be struggling at the moment. Where did you hold the wedding? In China or France? The uncle asked. Nowhere, Ning said. We never officially got married. What? No way, not even a court marriage, his uncle asked in surprise. No, not even that, Ning said. We never wanted it, so please don't suggest it. But, with the world the way it is now, we couldn't afford to at the time, Ning said. So many years have passed that we don't want it anymore. Well, let's not say no right away, Ili said from the side. Who knows? Maybe we change our minds someday. Will we? Ning asked. I might, Ili said. Fine, we will have it after I no longer have to worry about the earth, he said. The two of them continued eating alongside his uncle, and after they were done, his uncle sent the two of them away. Ning walked out to the living room to find the two brothers and sister just starting to have some fried chicken. That's all you're going to eat? Ning asked. This is the best stuff, brother, Young-hee said. I know, I ate that a lot when I was in Nulwern, he said. They only had fish there, so it was heavenly to have some chicken. Oh, where is Nulwern? Sounds European. Is that where sister-in-law is from? He asked. No, Ili is from France, Ning said. Nulwern as well. Nulwern is where Ning and I and Talon went after we were abducted by Genesis, Safandra said from the side. What? Abducted? Young-hee cried out in surprise. Saf. Ning gave a disappointed look. What? Safandra asked. You should just tell them already. It will be easier. Sigh. Just go watch TV or something, Ning said. No, I want to talk with Miss Ili here. I want to know why you would go so far just to return to her, she said. Fine, talk with her, Ning said and sat down beside the two siblings as he took a piece from the little brother's place. Young-hee tried to object, but Ning was already biting onto it before he could say anything. She sounds jealous, Haya said softly so that Sfandra who had moved far away couldn't hear it all. She's not, Ning said. I trust my eyes, Haya said. Anyway, what's his deal? He hasn't talked ever since coming here. He's just been watching TV all along. Who, Knight? He's just shy. You can go talk to him and he will talk with you. He's the silent type after all, Ning said. Young-hee looked at his cousin and softly asked, Why is his name Knight? He asked. What do you mean? Ning asked. I mean, what sort of parent would name their kid Knight? Wouldn't most want to call them something related to day or something related to the sun and moon? Young-hee asked. But Knight is a nice name, Ning said. I don't think it is, Young-hee said. Whoever came up with it wasn't thinking straight. Ning gave a blank look. No, it's a nice name, he said. Haya looked at him with an awkward look on her face. Did you give him that name by any chance? She asked. Of course, Ning said. And, what about Blue? She asked. I came up with his name as well. Don't you dare tell me that's a bad name, Ning said. Ahem, no, that's a good name, brother, Young Hee said. Especially Sorless's name. That's the best one for sure. Ning looked at them blankly again. That's his actual name, he said. I didn't give him any. The two siblings didn't know what to say anymore. Oh, look brother. This piece of meat looks tasty. Do you want it? I bet you'll love it, Young Hee said and pushed a piece next to Ning. Ning instead gave an angry look. Just you two wait, I will come up with a name to call the both of you. Then you will see. None of the cultivators needed any sleep at all. So after everyone went to their rooms, Ning and the rest sat around watching TV to learn various things. At some point Ely asked for a phone, so Ning created one that worked better than any out there. She remained on the phone for the rest of the night after that. Early morning, as the others started walking out of their room, Ning finally decided to tell some people that he was back. He asked his system for a skill that could emulate phone calls by sending and receiving them from anywhere in the world and used that to call the director. Who is this? The director answered the call with clear hesitation in his voice. Oh, hey Director Sung. It's me, Ning. I called to let you know that I'm back, Ning said. Wait, Ning? You're back? He asked with a tone of surprise. Can you come to meet me today? I have a few things to talk about with you. Sure, I will come by the office around 10 or 11, he said. See you then. Ning ended the call and turned to Ely. When do we go visit your brother? He asked. What time is it right now in France? She asked. Like 1 or 2 in the night, he said. Okay, then let's go around 6 hours later then, Ning said. He turned towards Safandra and asked, Hey, can you take Blue and Knight out into the city today to see around? I need them to get used to Earth as fast as they can. Sure, Safandra said. I haven't been out in a while. Sorless just doesn't want to go out at all. The other family members got down and talked for a while as well. Hai-Ah had successfully become an S-ranked mage, so she had been scouted by the various different guilds. Since she no longer had to worry about her family or even herself, she had stopped worrying about what would happen if she joined a guild, and had just joined the best one. In the place they were at, the White Devil Guild was definitely the best one. Young Hee still hadn't revealed the fact that he was also improving his rank. He wanted to hide it until he had successfully become an S-ranked mage himself. He sat around the kitchen table for breakfast with Ely by his side. His uncle, his cousins, and his grandmother also sat down. However, there was no space for the other 3 in the kitchen at all. Go back, you guys don't have to eat, Ning said and turned around the beasts. Safandra will take you to the restaurants later, you can try out different stuff there. Knight and Blue didn't mind not eating, but Sorless was used to eating, so he still grabbed his breakfast and went to the living room to eat. What are you going to do today? I heard you on the phone, but shouldn't you be resting after returning from a long journey? His uncle asked. Don't worry about me, uncle. I'm not tired at all. As for today, I plan on going house hunting. While this place is good, I need to find my own place too. One that is massive enough to house everyone, he said. That's not a bad idea. You two need some privacy yourselves, his uncle said. Although, don't try to find one in the city. They will rip you off badly. Find one outside of the city. Those are the best places. I will consider that, uncle, he said. There really wasn't anything he needed to consider, however. He had already found a few choices, so all he had to do was go around with Ely and choose the best one. After finishing their breakfast, Hai-Ah and Young Hee had to leave for their job. Wait for us, we will come with you too, Ning said. He and Ely changed to casual earth clothing and got into the back seat of the car that Ning had left behind so long ago. Hai-Ah drove the car and the 4 of them made their way to the city. Ning's first stop was a place just outside of the city. He got off the car and turned to Hai-Ah. Find Kim Min-soo and tell her I'm back and I'm willing to negotiate any contract if she still wants to, he said. Hai-Ah nodded and left. Ning walked with Ely the rest of the way, which was about 200 meters far away from the main highway. There, that plot of land. We can buy that, he said. That's quite a lot of land for Earth, she said. Why is that empty? Same reason why any of it is empty really. The dungeon break killed a lot of people, including the farmers who used to farm this land. Because of that, many farmlands are completely open for grabs, he said. I see, Ely said. The plot of land was about 4,500 meters square in area with about 45 meters in width and 100 meters in length. This isn't so bad, but it's not that close to any sort of road, Ely said. There should be better ones for sure. The road isn't that much of a problem for us anyway, although now that I look at it, this area isn't that visually pleasing at all. Hopefully, the next one will be better, Ning said. Yeah, let's go check out the next one, Ely said. The two of them teleported away from their current location, arriving at another location that was just outside of the city, separated by a large river. The plot of land was right next to the river and was completely barren. Ooh, this one is much better, Ely said. Although it looks a little small. Yeah, it's only 3,800 meters square in area, Ning said. It's much smaller than the earlier one. Although, it does have a good view. Come on, Ely said. Let's go check the other ones. Ning nodded and the two of them teleported again. Ning and Ely went around looking at the various places where they could build a home for themselves. In the end, they decided upon a piece of land to the south of Daegu that was surrounded by a lake on two sides. It was a little further from the city than they would want, but they could always just have a bit more road leading up there. Once deciding on where they were going to build their house, Ning needed to visit Director Sung. He and Ely teleported to Seoul, arriving a little away from the Department of Dungeon Defense. Ely looked around the city gleefully while Ning went directly to meet the director. Do you want to stay out here or go in with me to the meeting? He asked her. It might not be very fun inside. Let's go inside. I want to see how it all is, she said. Sure. Then let's go, Ning said and took her. He arrived in front of the assistant for the director and told her he was there for the meeting. The girl, knowing who he was now after his last barge in, quickly let the director know about it. Ely walked with Ning, going into the room alongside him. The assistant wanted to stop her, but since she was with Ning, she didn't dare say anything. She didn't want to anger an apostle after all. Ning opened the door and entered, only to see that it wasn't just the director that was there. Young Ning, you are here. I've been waiting for you, the director said and stood up to greet him. Ning nodded and looked at the other two that were in the room. I didn't expect Brother Lee and Sister Su Yun to be here as well, he said. It's been a while. It has been a while indeed, Lee said. I didn't expect you to just disappear like that, Su Yun said. Unlike Apostles Baek, Park, and Kim, both Lee and Su Yun were from the Seoul district, so they were able to come here to meet him. Lee looked more respectful now than he was before his small mock battle with Ning. As for Su Yun, she didn't dare use her charming skills on him at all. After Ning walked in, Ely walked in as well. I hope you don't mind that I brought her over as well, he said. My wife wanted to see what sort of things happen in these meetings. The director was surprised, and so were the other two. Your wife? The director asked. I didn't realize you were married. Of course, you didn't, Ning said. I never told you at all. Lee stood up to greet her quickly. Hello, I am Lee Kuan Yu. Leader and apostle of the Frost Empire Guild, he introduced himself. Hello, I'm Eleonora, Ely said. I do not have any titles such as yourself. I'm Ya Su Yun from the Silver Star Guild. Pleased to meet you, Su Yun introduced herself simply. Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you too, she said with a wide smile. Miss Eleonora, please sit. The director got out from behind his desk. I'm Sung Han Sum, director of the Dungeon Defense Department. May I ask what your nationality is? You don't look Korean or Chinese. I was born in France, Ely said, although I'm not sure if I can say that I'm of that nationality right now. Ah, I see. You're in a similar situation as Ning then, he said. He let the two of them sit and got behind his desk to sit down. Wait, so are we going to talk confidential information in front of a civilian? Lee asked with a curious look. I don't mean any disrespect, Miss Eleonora. No, of course not, Ely said. I just wanted to come here is all. It doesn't really matter though, Ning said. I'm going to tell her everything in the end anyway. This just removes the trouble for me. Sigh, I suppose I will have to let this one slide then, the director said. There was no way he was going to argue with Ning on any matter that would make him see them unfavorably. So, what was it that you wanted to see me for? Ning asked. Right, I've been trying to contact you for so long, he said. We have received a request for help. For help? Ning asked. I'm sure you know what has been happening in Germany right now, right? He asked. The German government has requested your help in getting rid of the sulfur monosulfide ranked dungeon that they have. They asked for me? Ning asked with a surprised look on his face. How did they even know about me in the first place? Ahem, they were asking for help from anywhere they could, and we happened to let them know that you had destroyed one before. After that, they have been asking us to lend you over to them. Is that a problem? The director asked. It's complicated, Ning said. I'll think about it, and there goes my privacy. Ely looked surprised when she heard him speak that way. What's wrong? She asked. The vultures are back, he said, looking at the two apostles, who didn't understand what was happening. Will you sit here for a while? I need to go talk with them for a bit, he said. Okay, Ely said worriedly, not understanding what was happening at all. Ning stood up and walked towards Lee with massive strides, surprising and intimidating Lee into standing up and trying to back away. Brother Ning, is something wrong? He asked while cowering backward. Don't worry, I'm not trying to hurt you, Ning said. He grabbed onto his shoulder and his system started working. Using the energy in Lee, Ning was able to find a connection directly to Lee's god. After finding him, he teleported away. He arrived in a white space with almost nothing around him except for some bumps in on the floor. He sat on one of them and looked ahead at the constellation that sat down as well. So, you must be Noraxis. Noraxis was a dark, demonic figure with two horns coming out of a head that had a whirling abyss inside of him. His fingers were 5 tentacles, each of which dropped black flakes from them continuously. The black flakes fell to the floor and turned into nothing but black smoke that dissipated into the air. How did you find me? The constellation asked in an archaic voice that seemed to come from far away even though he was right in front of Ning. You've let your powers around, so it is easy to find you, Ning said. Can you call Yemis here? And Hellas, Graves, and Thalaxis if you can. What reason do I have to call them here? The constellation asked. To kill us all as you did to Strixus. Do you think I can kill you all? Ning asked with a creepy smile on his face. I don't know what you can do. I don't even know what you are, the constellation said. Then, do you think I'm here to kill you? Ning asked. Noraxis paused. He wasn't sure about that anymore. What are you here for then? He asked. To stop you and the rest from constantly staring at me, Ning said. I hate it when you do nothing but state at me as if you're trying to figure out what I am. We are, the constellation said. You are an anomaly that we have never seen or heard of before. We thought that you were a normal system user, but then you killed Strixus, so you can't be a system user after all. Well, can you stop trying to figure it out then? Ning asked. Even if you don't want to, at least stop paying attention to me. Your stares prick like thorns and I hate when that happens. Is that it? Noraxis asked. Is that what you are here for? That was what prompted me to come here, but now that I'm here, I have another plan, Ning said. As I said before, can you call the other 4 constellations too? Noraxis thought for a moment and accepted the request. He sent an invitation to the 4 constellations that Ning had named and a moment later, they were all there. Yemis was the one that had appointed the Speedy Park as her apostle. She was a humanoid figure with everything human except for her eyes, chest, and back. She had demonic crimson eyes that were 3 pairs each instead of 1. Her chest had nothing demonic, but it was fully open and one could see a beating heart inside of it. As for her back, there was a batwing, like most demons did. Hellas was the constellation behind the sorcerer apostle back. He was a half-human, half-squid, with his head and legs belonging to that of a squid. He looked unnerving for sure and even vomited out constant black ink that marred the floor black. Graves had a rotting face and his body was full of holes through which one could see through. There were snakes and worms that constantly moved in and out of holes, giving him a creepy feeling than the rest of them. He was the constellation behind Su Yun. Thalaxis was the white devil behind Kim Min Su. He had a goat's skull with horns on his head while the rest of his body was a skeleton. They all stood by each other and looked at Ning with concern. Looks like a few of us are here at least, Ning said. What do you want? Yemis asked. What did you call us here for? Hellas asked as well. We should get rid of him and be done with, Graves said hurriedly. He was the one here that was most afraid of Ning. If he could, he would have killed us already. I don't think he can fight the 5 of us if we work together, Thalaxis said. Ning smiled. Do you want to test that hypothesis of yours? He asked. Thalaxis stepped back a little in fear. The one thing that all constellations wanted was to have more energy and grow stronger by living in the minds of as many as they could. The one thing that all of them hated was the thought of dying. The thought of inexistence. The thought of disappearing without anyone else with the same thought and memory to be born again. Constellations were born from others, so they were the ones that feared for their own lives the most. As such, they were also the ones that would go to any length if it meant their longer survival. No number of death was too much, and no atrocities were too far. These were the ones that made themselves the gods of whoever they could find, and if that didn't work, they would destroy them and move on to someone else. Ning looked at the 5 of them and prepared his own escape route. Teleporting was impossible from this space, so he would have to open a portal instead. However, the problem with portals was that anyone could enter after he left it behind. Ning sighed and spoke, "I'm not going to kill you. I'm here to give you an opportunity to have your influence back in Korea," he said. The 5 constellations got curious after hearing that. "What do you mean?" Thalaxis asked. "Let me ask a question first," Ning said. "If the people on Earth were to all die, would that benefit you in any way at all?" "No," Noraxis said. "We need them to live so we can continue to live off of their memories." "Then, are you doing anything to stop them from dying?" he asked. "We created the apostles," Thalaxis said, "and gave them a whole lot of knowledge," Yemis said. "That's good," Ning said. "But what about the other constellations that are waiting for the apocalypse to arrive and the whole world to be turned upside down? What will you do when they will destroy the world, and people will remember you as the one that failed?" Ning said. "And what will you do as you fade off of their memories, replaced by the other ones?" "That is unlikely to happen," Graves said with a raspy voice that was more whispering than actually speaking. "We have more of us on our side. When the world does get overturned by monsters, we will emerge victorious in the end with the apostles we have gathered. And what about the millions, even hundreds of millions of people that will die in the end because of the monsters? Are you willing to let so many thoughts, so many minds just disappear?" "A small sacrifice that we're willing to make," Noraxis said. "That's a small sacrifice to you?" Ning asked, anger visible in his eyes. He knew he hated these constellations for what they did, but he didn't know he would hate them so openly. "Hundreds of millions of people is nothing to you?" Ning asked. "We only care about our own survival," the squid-faced Hellas said. His tentacles slopped around the ground, moving unnaturally. "What if you could save those lives from disappearing? Wouldn't you rather have so many more people thinking about you?" Ning asked. "But they will die when the monsters attack," Thalaxis said. "We cannot stop that." "Why not?" Ning asked. "Stopping the monsters ourselves means that we place ourselves against the others who have been waiting for that moment. They will attack us," Graves said. "And you are worried about being attacked?" Ning asked. "Aren't there like 90 of you against mere 45 others? You outnumber them 2 to 1. "Yes, but there is a chance we may die when fighting the others. We cannot afford that," Yemis said. "You are cowards," Ning said. "You have the number and yet you fear them. Fight and emerge victorious. You will be remembered far more than doing any of this." The constellations thought about it, but it was clear that they weren't giving it the serious thought it deserved. "Fine, if you don't want to fight them when the apocalypse happens, then I have a better idea," Ning said. "How about stopping the apocalypse from happening altogether? What do you think?" "How do you plan on doing that?" Thalaxis asked. "By destroying every single dungeon in this world," Ning said. "What do you say?" The constellations quickly shook their head. "No, we cannot accept this. We need those dungeons as the source of fear that makes humans look up to the apostles we have chosen. Without those, they will forget about us soon enough." Ning frowned. They weren't wrong about that. There was no reason for them to help him clear the dungeons when it meant they came out worse than they started in the situation. "Fine then," Ning said. "Not all dungeons, just the ones that are SS ranked. What do you say?" The constellations looked at one another to make a decision. "What do we get out of that?" they asked. Ning smiled. "Exactly what you want," he said. "What do you mean?" they asked him with an unsure voice. "Every time I destroy the dungeon, I will make sure to say that I was able to do it due to the powers vested in me by the 5 of you. Humanity will soon do nothing but praise you for making me an apostle," he said. "How does that work for you?" Ning had learned from Hai-Ah that people were already calling him an apostle because of all the feats he had been able to accomplish. No normal human being should have that sort of power otherwise. Since that was the case, he had decided to play along with it, and right now, that made the most sense. "I get to go around doing what I want without people questioning me, and you get to make a name for yourself, far more than what your apostles can," Ning said. "How's that for an alliance?" "That sounds good," Noraxis said. "I don't see how this helps you though." "How does it not?" Ning asked. "All I want is peace in my world. Destroying those dungeons makes me feel safe." "Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Having 5 constellations behind him helped keep some others off of him just out of fear of having all of them get mixed into any sort of conflict. These constellations hated conflicts, so even with the tiniest bit of chance there being a threat of losing their life, they would back off. Does that answer your question? Ning asked. Unlike you 4, I don't have anything to gain, and neither do I want anything like you. All I care about is protecting the people of my world. The question now is, do you accept my offer to work together so you can start getting benefits from what I do? I accepted, Graves said without any more consideration. I won't do anything else to help you. I won't fight any battles that may come your way. Ning grunted a little. Fine, what about the rest of you? He asked. I see nothing wrong with this, Hellas said. I accept as well. I would like to reap the benefits of what I haven't sowed as well, Yemis said, blinking her 6 eyes. I see no downside on this for me, so I would like to accept as well, Thalaxis said. I shall join you in this as well, Noraxis said. Great, we are all in this together then, Ning said. I will start using your name starting now. He stood up to leave. Also, stop staring, okay? All of you. I don't like it. If you want to talk, just contact me. I can come anytime you want. See ya. Ning opened a portal and teleported away from this separated space to arrive back inside the director's room. Where did you go? Ely asked with a curious look on her face. To talk with a few gods, Ning said and turned towards the director. I have some good news. Oh, what's that? The director asked. Contact the German government. I will be destroying their SS-ranked dungeon, just as they want.